Right now, inside every drain in your house, there is something alive. It is not a bug. It is not a root. It is a living colony of bacteria, millions of them, woven together into a slime so tough that researchers at the CDC have measured it at up to 1,000 times more resistant to cleaning chemicals than the same bacteria floating free in water. They call it biofilm. You call it that smell, that slow, damp, rotten egg smell that rises from the sink when you run the tap. And here is the part most folks never hear. The $8 bottle of chemical drain cleaner you grab off the shelf does not kill it. It cannot even reach it. The slime has its own protective shell, a sticky armor the bacteria build for themselves, and store-bought chemicals bounce right off. But there is a way to break it apart for pennies using things sitting in your kitchen right now, and I am going to walk you through every step before this video is over. Do not go anywhere just yet, because the method that actually works is not the one everybody talks about on the internet. And the one mistake almost everyone makes with it is the reason their drains still stink in the morning. 23 years I have lived on this same piece of ground in Lancaster County, and in 23 years I have not once called a plumber for a clogged drain. Not the kitchen, not the shower, not the utility sink in the barn. My name is Samuel. I grew up Amish. And if there is one thing you learn early in a house with no money for service calls, it is how to keep your own pipes clear. Now, the average drain cleaning visit in this country runs between $150 and $350. That is the easy call out, a simple sink or tub clog. If the plumber has to snake the main line, you are looking at $200 to $600. An after-hours emergency can run double. I have seen neighbors pay $400 for a Saturday night visit that took the man 20 minutes. And the worst part is, 3 months later, the drain is slow again because nobody dealt with what was growing on the inside of the pipe wall. They cleared the blockage. They did not clean the pipe. Here is what is really happening. Every time you wash a dish, a thin film of grease coats the inside of that drain pipe. It is invisible. You would not notice it any more than you notice dew on a windshield, but it sticks. And within hours, bacteria latch onto that grease, not floating through, but anchored, and they start building. They secrete a substance scientists call extracellular polymeric substance, or EPS. Think of it as a kind of biological concrete. Layer by layer, the colony thickens and it traps everything that passes through. Hair, soap scum, food particles, mineral scale. That is how a 2-inch pipe becomes a 1/2-inch pipe over the course of a year or two. And those bacteria, as they feed on the grease and the debris, they produce hydrogen sulfide gas. That is the rotten egg smell. That is not dirty water. That is a living colony exhaling. My grandfather used to say, a pipe is no different from a fence line. Walk it before the weeds take hold, and you will never need a machete. He was talking about drains. I remember the Saturday mornings he would walk through the house. Every Saturday, same routine, with a kettle in one hand and a jar of something in the other. White vinegar, salt, a sliver of soap he shaved off the block with his pocket knife. He would pour a little down every drain in the house, one at a time, kitchen to washroom to the laundry basin. My grandmother thought he was fussy. He told her once, a clean pipe does not announce itself. A dirty one will, and by then it is too late. He never paid for a plumber in his life, not once. And the drains in that house ran clear the day they carried him out of it. I took that habit with me, refined it a little, added a step he did not have. But the bones of it are his, and the bones are solid. The method is not complicated, but the order matters, the timing matters, and there is one thing almost nobody gets right. So listen close. Here is the full system, start to finish. 4 steps, and every ingredient is something you already own or can pick up for a few dollars. Step 1, the grease cutter. Take a small container, a mason jar, a measuring cup, anything clean. Squeeze in a good tablespoon of plain dish soap, not the fancy antibacterial kind, not the one with moisturizers and fragrance beads. Plain dish soap, the kind that costs $1 at any grocery store, Dawn, the original blue is what I use. Dish soap is a surfactant. What that means in plain terms is it breaks the bond between grease and the surface it is clinging to. It gets between the fat molecule and the pipe wall and loosens the grip. That is its one job, and it does it well. Step 2, the abrasive. Add 1 tablespoon of plain table salt. Salt does 2 things most people do not realize. First, it is a mild physical abrasive. The crystals do not dissolve instantly in a thick soap mix. They hold their shape long enough to scrub the inside surface of the pipe as the mixture moves through. Second, salt is naturally antimicrobial. It pulls moisture out of bacterial cells through osmosis. It will not sterilize a pipe, but it slows regrowth, and that buys you time between treatments. Step 3, the acid. Pour in a generous splash, roughly 2 tablespoons, of white vinegar, not apple cider vinegar, not cleaning vinegar, which is stronger than you need here. Plain white vinegar, 5% acidity, the kind that costs about $3 for a gallon. Vinegar is acetic acid. It dissolves mineral deposits, cuts through soap scum, and it disrupts the outer layer of that biofilm shell I told you about, the EPS armor. On its own, vinegar cannot destroy a mature biofilm, but it softens it. It cracks the surface, and that is what lets the next step do the real damage. Now stir the whole thing together. You will notice the mixture thickens. That is the soap and the salt interacting, and it is exactly what you want. A thicker mixture clings to the pipe walls instead of running straight through. If it is too thick to pour, add a small splash of warm water and stir until it moves like heavy cream. Set it aside, but here is the part that turns a good method into one that actually works, and this is where most people get it wrong. Step 4, the reaction. Do this at night, right before bed. That timing is not a suggestion, it is the whole reason this works. First, drop 1 tablespoon of baking soda straight into the drain, dry. Do not chase it with water. Then, slowly pour in the mixture you just made. The moment the baking soda, sodium bicarbonate, a base, meets the vinegar in the mixture, acetic acid, you get a chemical reaction. Carbon dioxide gas, that is the fizzing you see. Those bubbles are not decoration. They are pressure. They push into the cracks in the biofilm, get underneath the loosened slime, and lift it off the pipe wall from the inside out. Now, here's the thing I want you to understand, because the internet has made a mess of this. You will find people who say baking soda and vinegar in a drain is useless, and they are half right. If you pour baking soda and vinegar down a fully clogged drain and expect it to blast through a solid blockage of hair and grease, you will be disappointed. The reaction produces about as much force as a can of soda fizzing over. It is not a pressure washer. But that is not what we are doing here. We are not unclogging, we are maintaining. We are using the fizz to loosen a thin layer of fresh biofilm before it hardens into that 1,000 times resistant fortress. That is a different job, and for that job, the reaction works. So you have poured it in. It is fizzing. Now walk away. Go to sleep. Let the mixture sit in the pipe overnight, 6, 8, 10 hours. While you sleep, the soap is dissolving grease. The salt is scrubbing and slowing bacteria. The vinegar is softening the mineral scale. And the carbon dioxide has already broken the biofilm's grip on the pipe wall. You have just given yourself an 8-hour cleaning crew for the cost of a nickel. In the morning, fill the sink almost to the brim with the hottest water your tap will make. Then pull the plug all at once. That sudden rush of hot water, several gallons at pressure, creates a flush that blasts every loosened particle straight out of the pipe. It is a mechanical clear out. The overnight treatment loosened it. The morning flush removes it. What is left is a clean, clear, odor-free drain. Now here is why the overnight part is so important and why pouring this mixture down and immediately flushing with hot water, which is what every internet video tells you to do, does almost nothing. The reaction between baking soda and vinegar lasts about 30 seconds. The soap needs time to penetrate the grease layer. The salt needs time in contact with the bacteria to draw moisture out of those cells. And the CTO bubbles need time to work into the cracks in the biofilm, before the slime reseals. If you flush 30 seconds after you pour, the mixture never touches the problem. It just slides past. An overnight soak gives every ingredient time to do its job. That is the difference between a man who tries this once and says it does not work, and a man who does it twice a month and never calls a plumber. Time is the ingredient nobody lists on the bottle. Now here is something most folks miss entirely. Before that morning flush, toss a second tablespoon of baking soda into the drain, then pour in about half a cup of hot vinegar. You get a second fizz, a fresh burst of CO2 that catches anything the overnight session left behind. Then the hot water flush. It is one extra step, takes 30 seconds, and it doubles the result. Now here is the one real safety point, and I will not skip it because it matters. If you have old cast iron pipes, the kind in houses built before the 1970s, be cautious with boiling water. It said hot tap water, not boiling. Boiling water poured repeatedly into PVC joints can over time soften the glue at the connections. Hot tap water around 120 to 130 degrees is plenty. It melts grease without stressing your pipes. And one more honest word. I said earlier that this method is not for a fully blocked drain. I meant it. If water is standing in your sink and not going down at all, you likely have a physical obstruction, a clump of hair, a buildup of solidified grease, sometimes a child's toy, or a piece of food that got past the strainer. No amount of baking soda is going to move that. For a true blockage, you need a drain snake. A 25-foot plastic zip snake costs $3 to $5 at any hardware store, or about $8 for a small hand-cranked drum auger at Home Depot. That is the mechanical tool for the mechanical problem. What I am giving you today is the chemical and biological maintenance that keeps you from ever needing it. Honest is better than impressive. If I told you this would clear a solid blockage, I would be lying, and I will not be part of that. Now let me give you the extra method, the one that takes this from good to bulletproof, because the dish soap and vinegar mixture handles grease and fresh biofilm. But there is a category of drain cleaner most people have never heard of, and it is the thing that handles the rest: enzyme drain maintainers. You can find them at Home Depot, Lowe's, Amazon. A bottle runs about $15 to $18 and lasts months. The one I keep under the kitchen sink is called Zep Drain Defense. It is an 18-ounce tub of enzymatic powder. Looks like coarse baking soda. You sprinkle 2 tablespoons into the drain, chase it with warm water, and let it sit overnight, once a month. What it does is introduce live bacteria, safe, non-pathogenic bacteria that colonize the pipe and eat the organic matter that the biofilm feeds on. They digest hair, grease, soap scum, and food particles, and they convert it to carbon dioxide and water. No chemicals, no fumes, no pipe damage. Safe for PVC, copper, cast iron, and septic systems. Now where to find it in the store? It is in the plumbing aisle, not the cleaning aisle. Usually on the bottom shelf near the drain snakes and the pipe tape. What you must not grab by mistake is the bottle right next to it, the chemical drain opener. They look similar. They sit side by side, but one is enzyme-based and the other is lye-based. Read the label. If it says sodium hydroxide or sulfuric acid anywhere on it, put it back. You want the one that says enzymatic or bioenzymatic or bacterial. That is the one that works with your pipes instead of against them. Here is the thing that makes this a Samuel-approved tool. You buy it once and it works for months. There is no subscription, no service contract, no recurring truck pulling into your driveway. One $15 to $18 tub gives you roughly 8 to 12 monthly treatments. Depending on how many drains you have, that is about $1.50 a drain per month to keep a colony of friendly bacteria working around the clock on the thing that causes every slow drain and every bad smell. What you must not buy is the chemical drain cleaner, the kind in the bright bottle with the skull and crossbones warnings. Drano, Liquid Plumber, the generic store brand with sodium hydroxide or sulfuric acid. Those work fast. I will not lie. They dissolve the clog in 15 to 30 minutes, but they also generate heat inside the pipe, enough to soften PVC and corrode old metal, and they kill every bacterium in your drain, including the good ones in your septic tank if you are on septic. One bottle can knock your septic bacteria back by half. So you clear today's clog and set up next month's, and you damage the pipe in the process. You do the math on which one they would rather sell you, the $5 fix that lasts 2 weeks or the $15 fix that lasts all year. Now I want to take a moment because this is the part that matters, and it is bigger than a clean drain. Every skill I've shown you today, the soap, the salt, the vinegar, the overnight treatment, the enzyme powder, it adds up to maybe $20 a year, maybe less. A single plumber visit starts at $150. 2 visits a year, and you have spent $300 or more, not counting the emergency call on a Saturday night when the shower will not drain and you have guests arriving in the morning. There is no money in telling a man he can keep his own pipes clear with a tablespoon of baking soda and a jar of dish soap. There is money in the $8 chemical bottle you buy every month, and there is money in the $300 call out you make twice a year. The knowledge is not hidden. It is not a secret. It is just quiet, because quiet does not sell. A man who can keep his own home running, drains clear, pipes clean, no smell, no emergency, no service truck in the driveway, is a man who needs to ask no one's permission and pay no one's monthly bill. That is the whole of it. So here's what I want you to do this week. 1. Make the mixture. Dish soap, salt, vinegar. Total cost less than 50 cents. 2. Tonight, drop a tablespoon of baking soda in your slowest drain, pour the mixture in, and go to bed. 3. In the morning, fill the sink, pull the plug, and flush it clean. 4. Pick up a tub of Enzyme Drain Maintainer, Zep Drain Defense, about $15 at Home Depot, and use it once a month going forward. 5, and this one is free. Put a mesh drain screen over every drain in your house. A $2 stainless steel screen in the shower catches the hair before it ever enters the pipe. Prevention is always cheaper than the cure. That is your whole plan start to finish. For under $20 a year, tell me in the comments, how long has it been since you cleaned your drains? A month? A year? Never? And if you are in an old house with cast iron pipes, tell me how your drains are holding up, because I want to hear what is working for you out there. I read every single one, and the help you give each other down there is the best part of this whole thing. If a man with dirt under his fingernails talking about drain slime is teaching you something the modern world forgot, do an old neighbor a kindness and subscribe. There is a lot more where this came from. Next time, since we have been speaking about what builds up inside the things you use every day, I am going to show you a 3-ingredient mix that kills cockroaches dead, no poison, no spray, safe enough that my grandchildren play on that kitchen floor the same evening. It follows straight on from what we did today. Until then, keep your drains clear, keep your pipes honest, and remember, the people who built this country with their hands knew things we are only just starting to remember.